Atlantic premiers are pushing back against a new federal policy that kicks in tomorrow. First pitched in 2016, the clean fuel regulations were delayed for years because of fierce political opposition. The policy is designed to reduce the carbon intensity of the gas and diesel we use. It means refineries have to make their fuels cleaner. Ottawa is mandating a 15% reduction in emissions by 2030. So how do refineries and fuel importers meet that bar? They can build carbon capture and storage facilities, blend in more biofuels like ethanol, or help build electric vehicle charging stations. All of that costs money, of course, costs that could be felt by consumers. Now, it should take years for the rules to have a noticeable bite at the pumps, but Atlantic premiers say the financial burden will hit harder and sooner in their provinces. Tim Houston is the Premier of Nova Scotia. Many people in your province will be hitting the road this weekend, Premier, and they're going to see higher prices at the pump because of the carbon tax and now because of the clean fuel regulations. Are you worried that there is going to be a backlash to all these costs?
Oh yeah, I mean it's a really sad situation. I'm on the road today, and the lineups at the gas stations from people trying to beat the tax. They know what's coming, and it's just really hard to make sense of it, to be honest. I mean, it's an unnecessary tax. It's a punitive tax. It's the worst possible timing for a tax like this. I mean, I just left a meeting with a bunch of home care workers discussing a number of issues, but of course they're on the road all day going back and forth to the clients' homes, helping deliver care to Nova Scotians. They're worried. There was a few tears in the meeting. But it's unnecessary. People are worried. It will have a huge impact on our province in many, many ways.
But you know what Ottawa says about all this? There's a federal rebate, designed to make people whole for the carbon tax. A family of four will get quarterly payments, $248, I think it is, in Nova Scotia. Doesn't that satisfy some of your concerns and some of the concerns you're hearing from folks there?
No, I mean, the rebate may mitigate some of the costs, but like, there's just absolutely no way that this tax is a moneymaker for people. I know the Liberals try to position it as, well, you're going to make lots of money off this tax. You're going to get this rebate that's going to be more than you spend. It's not going to be more than they spend. I mean, the Liberals have one message. I actually trust and believe the message of the parliamentary budget officer who did an analysis that said this will cost Nova Scotians money, and it'll even cost more than that report in my estimates. So, the price of gas will go up, the price of diesel will go up. Home heating oil will go up. Many Nova Scotians heat their homes with home heating oil. We're working to get them off. But because the gas goes up and diesel goes up, it really means everything goes up. Everything at the cash register will be a little more because of this tax. And the worst thing about it is this tax won't do anything to preserve the planet. I mean, we put forward a good plan, but they didn't want to hear it in Ottawa. What they wanted was their carbon tax. They're getting it. Nova Scotians are going to pay the price for it, and it's just unnecessary.
You mentioned the parliamentary budget officer and his findings about the cost. What a lot of critics say is that report did not consider the cost of climate change itself, though, that there will be costs borne by people if Canada doesn't act on climate change. The federal government has said, emissions, so much of it comes from the transportation sector. We have to do something. Environmentalists agree. Do you not think that Canada needs to do all it can to try and fight climate change? And maybe this is one way to do it.
Oh, I absolutely do think that, that our climate is changing. That's a fact. We agree with, with human beings on that. We agree with the federal government on that. There's a role for government. We absolutely agree with the federal government on that as well. We just don't agree that the carbon tax will do it. In a rural province like Nova Scotia, it's just not an option to take public transit to work for most people. It's not an option to jump on the bicycle and drive the kids to hockey practice or dance practice. It's not an option to walk to work. So they're still going to drive. You can put a carbon tax on it, but they're still going to drive. So therefore, it won't have a meaningful impact. It won't have the desired impact because we have to move around. We have to drive. So look, I understand the Liberal spin on it that, in many ways, but I think people understand that there needs to be steps taken, but they also understand that the carbon tax is not the right move right now for this province. We put forward a great plan. They rejected it in Ottawa. The Liberals didn't like our plan because it didn't have a carbon tax in it. They were fixated on the carbon tax. So look, I understand the Liberal spin on this, but I understand the reality. And the reality is life just got a lot less affordable for Nova Scotians. with no obvious reason why.
I hear how frustrated you are, but why don't you direct some of that frustration at Irving Oil or the utility review board in your province that essentially allowed them to push through some of these hikes? I mean, Stephen Guilbeault, the federal environment minister, has said there's no reason for Irving to be passing these costs on to consumers now, yet they applied for this rate hike and they got it. Shouldn't you be holding those two parties accountable for this as well?
Well, if Mr. Guilbeault wants them held to account, he should do it. He's the one that's putting a carbon tax on Nova Scotia. He's the one that's making the price of everything go up. If he thinks there's something that he could have done to protect people, he should do it. He should stop pointing the fingers at people, and he should just do it himself. So if there's something to be done there, I urge him to do it to protect some of these the Nova Scotians that are going to feel this in every single way. So look, the carbon tax is punitive to Nova Scotians. It's on us because of a short-sighted, fixated government that just made up their mind that they wanted a carbon tax. Perhaps they didn't think through all the ramifications. They should have. If they didn't, I have a feeling that they really didn't. But I know the ramification that we're feeling here in Nova Scotia. Higher gas, higher diesel, higher everything. Shame on the federal government if they didn't think that through, because it's obvious what's going to happen.
But didn't the Utility Review Board allow these costs to be passed on to consumers, right? Like, I think your government even amended some of the regulations on petroleum products to give them that leeway. Can't you step in now to try and soften the blow?
The UARB will make their decisions. They're an independent body. They'll make their decisions. You know, I always speak up when I believe that they're doing something that we can change or that they should do differently. I'm not shy about that. I will never be shy about speaking up for Nova Scotians. But let's not deflect away from the real issue. And this is what the minister is trying to do. This is what the Liberals are trying to do. The best way to avoid all these price increases is to stop the carbon tax. That's the best way to try and deflect away and have other discussions about what somebody else should have done. No. Just stop it right now until you understand the ramifications, but certainly until you can show Nova Scotians what's the benefit that's going to come from doing this. We know the cost. The cost is higher everything, but we don't see the benefit.
You know, the government has also made the point that Irving Oil's refinery margins are up, and they're up big. I mean, according to federal data, they have seen their profit margins on refining operations go up about 37% in the last 4 years, and yet they're passing on more costs to the people in your province. Does that seem fair to you? You know, is Irving really being a good citizen here with all this?
Well, there's all kinds of mechanisms on that. The UARB is one, so I'll let the UARB do their job on that. But really, I think the discussion that we are having here in Nova Scotia, that everyone that's driving past today and going over across there to fuel up and try and beat this tax, the discussion is why the carbon tax. They're not talking about, well, how do we avoid a little bit of it. They're talking about how do we avoid the whole thing because it's unnecessary. That's the discussion that needs to happen. The Liberals haven't been able to explain how it's going to help preserve the planet in this province. We put forward a way to do that. You know, the greening of the grid, work with us on hydro energy. Instead, they shut down a company here that was trying to produce tidal energy. That's the way you green the grid, is with more hydro, more wind, offshore wind. Those are balls in the court of the federal government that they're dragging their feet on. If they really wanted to do something for the environment, they should be working towards those things. We have a willing partner in us on them. And I think why Nova Scotians are so frustrated is because we see that as the real potential. And the carbon tax is not going to get us there. It's just going to make life less affordable. So stop the carbon tax, talk about meaningful initiatives. We agree the climate is changing. We agree government has a role, but let's actually tackle that in a meaningful way.